Yeah, it was Des back with another video. So yeah, on this one I want to talk about the Wolves game. Obviously we won 2-0. Talk about Man City as well. So yeah, remember the last game Man City had against Fulham? Obviously we thought that was our opportunity right there for them to drop points and for us to go ahead of them. But then obviously they ended up getting that penalty in the last second or last minute or whatever the case may be. And I said in that after that game, I said they can't keep on dragging games like this. Like if you keep on having to drag games like this, at some point it's gonna cost them. And the next game after that, Brentford, and look at what happened. So obviously, lucky to us that they lost against Brentford, dropped points down, but 5 points clear. And for me, I feel like obviously at the moment it seems like obviously City lost Gabriel Jesus, they lost Sterling, and at the moment they're heavily relying on what Haaland and Foden as the main goal scorers. Obviously they have more goals than us, they've scored more goals than us, but I feel like in certain tight games they're really relying on just the two players to get goals. Meanwhile, with us, we've got what Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka, and Gabriel Jesus all on 4+ goals. So we've got a few players that can score goals. Even Granit Xhaka is getting into positions as well to get himself some goals. But with them, they're so reliant on Haaland and Foden as their main goal scorers. The others, in the past, they've had Gundogan as someone who could get goals, and even Mahrez chipped in as well. But this season, those guys haven't really been in them kind of goal scoring position as they have. And like I said, they lost Sterling and they lost what's his name, Gabriel Jesus as well. Alvarez is another guy that could get goals for them, but we just have to see if he's going to be able to consistently get goals. But otherwise, they are really relying on those players, and it shows a lot that in past seasons in these tight games, you get random guys who will score goals. Any player can just chip in with goals as long as you know you've got consistent guys who will get into the box to try and score goals. It's really important. That's why I've been saying we need to get another forward as well, another player that we can rely on to get goals. And I feel like this season we've been lucky because we've not had just one singular goal scorer. We've been able to share our goals across multiple players. So because of that, within certain tight games, maybe Odegaard will be the one in this game, Jesus will be the one in that game, Saka or Martinelli. But in different games, we've had different guys stand up and be the one to get the goal in a close game. So yeah, that's what I feel like has been the difference so far. I don't know if we'll be able to maintain it because they've got more depth than us, but that's for me, it's been the main difference at the moment is that in the tight games we've been able to just get the guys who can score because we have more variety and more multiple options of guys that can get goals. So another thing that I'll mention as well is when you look at the way we play as well, we look like we can win almost every game. So I'm not too like fussed or concerned. When I look at the way we get into games, there's no game that we go into that I have a feeling whereby I feel like, oh, we might not win this game or not. It just seems like we just dominate every game. Because when I looked at the Wolves game and how we approached that game, the high line was really good. And especially scenes in general back in that role as well again in midfield. The Highlands really good. We dominate the ball in the final third, contain them, push them backwards, and just continue to recycle the ball and continue to create chances to sustain possession in the final third. And due to that, it looks like we're just dominant and very we're able to control so many games. I was watching the United game against what was the last game they had? They won. I think it was Fulham, yeah, the Fulham game, and they didn't have no control at all. Obviously, it's just the beginning of Eric Ten Hag's period there. But if you look at where they are at the moment, if you look at where Chelsea are at the moment, you look at where we are with Arteta, we're so far ahead in our development. Even though you think those two are trying to, or those three want to play in a similar way to how we want to play in terms of dominating the ball. When you look at their teams that they came from, but we seem to be so far ahead in that instance where we're a very dominant team. We control almost every game we've controlled. Even the game we lost to United, we controlled that game as well. There hasn't been a game where we didn't have the control over the game. Besides maybe, I lie. Besides maybe the Leeds game was one that we lost control in the second half. And there's various factors that cause for that to happen. But yeah, we're going to every game feeling dominant and looking like we can win. So for me, I feel like we can definitely maintain these performances consistently because of how dominant we are in our style of play. The main thing is just having the depth to be able to capitalize on these games. The same thing the City have struggled in the past two games is something that could be an issue for us if we don't add depth into the squad. So when I think about that, with 5 points clear and the title race is on, obviously, come on, man, I think we can do this. I do feel like, obviously, now that we've got this break for the World Cup, we need to focus on transfers and start maybe planning for January ahead so we can get in some players that can come in and add to the team, add to the players that we have right now, just to make sure that we don't start slowing down and we don't lose momentum due to depth or players getting tired or injuries or things like that. So yeah, let me go into some things that I saw in the game. Just some things during the Wolves games that helped. Think about Zinchenko is the first one I want to talk about. This guy is unbelievable in possession. The moment he came back into the team, you could already see the flow. Because remember, when we started the season and he was in there, all of our play was mainly down the left-hand side. Everything was beautiful down the left-hand side. We saw the rotation with Zinchenko, Granit Xhaka, Martinelli rotating with Gabriel Jesus as well. We were switching positions in that side. But then as soon as Zinchenko started getting these injuries and he was out of the team, we saw the play move from the left side to the right side. And there was a lot more domination happening on the right side, but on that side we didn't have the same sort of dynamism that we had on the left side, on the right side. But now that Zinchenko's back, you can see that again. Even look at for both goals, he was involved in both goals. When you think about the way he's responsible in both goals, you look at the first goal. When in the build up to that goal, he was playing basically in midfield with Martinelli on the left-hand side, dragging the whole team all the way to the right side, pulling the Wolves team apart all the way to the right-hand side, creating space on the left. Gabriel Jesus taking up the space that Martinelli had vacated. Vieira attacking the left half space, and then you had Zinchenko dropping into midfield. And when Martinelli finally made the cutback, then you had the link play between Zinchenko to Gabriel Jesus, who then dribbled inside and cut back to Vieira, who then cut back to Odegaard, who got the goal. So that's what you see what Zinchenko did. So in that first goal, Zinchenko was playing like a midfielder. In the second goal, you had Martinelli dribbling, cutting back, and then cut back to Zinchenko, who on this occasion was overlapping instead. So you just see the way Zinchenko is able to switch roles. He can drift inside, he can stay deep, and he can also attack the width of the pitch and play like a winger as well. So just the way he's able to rotate these different positions, because obviously we've had Tomiyasu who played as well, but he wasn't able to match the same versatility that Zinchenko offers. And the same with Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney is a lot better when he's overlapping as opposed to when he's drifting inside, because obviously he has different skill set to what Zinchenko has. But Zinchenko is someone who gives us everything as a whole in terms of drifting inside, keeping the ball in the middle of the pitch, and also overlapping at the same time. And I feel like his ability to switch between positions and drift inside or drift outside helps Martinelli as well. And we saw in this game, both Martinelli and Zinchenko were key for both goals. And they made a big impact. And also we saw more of that Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus link play as well, switching of positions and occupying each other's roles. So yeah, like I mentioned about the switching of roles, I think that's one key thing for Arteta in how we want to play, because I think the players understand that once you have a player leave his position, you need another player to occupy that position as well. So when you see how Fabio Vieira attacks the half space, Zinchenko moves into that centre mid role, because obviously Fabio Vieira will play 4-3-3 and Fabio Vieira was the left centre mid. But as Zinchenko moves into that left centre mid, Vieira attacks the left half space. Gabriel Jesus moves to the left wing as Martinelli comes inside of the pitch. So everyone is just switching positions and occupying the space that the other guy has leaves behind. So that's why if you look at the way the players that we're adding, we're looking to have versatile players who can play in different positions. So you got Gabriel Jesus, who's comfortable receiving out wide, dribbling as you saw for the first goal, dribbling 1v1 and playing the pass in behind to Vieira. And then you got Vieira, who's comfortable playing as a left centre mid, but also attacking the half space like what we see with Xhaka doing. And then you got Zinchenko, who's comfortable coming inside because Fabio Vieira has left that space, but at the same time he's also comfortable for the second goal. You see him going on the outside as Martinelli comes inside. So you see that for Arteta, what he likes is to have these versatile players that understand the importance of switching position, occupying each other's space that's been vacated, but at the same time being comfortable playing in these different positions. And that's what's so important about what we've seen with the players that we've been recruiting. And also when you think about that as well, it also shows it's important as to see that we can't just sign anybody. When you look at Martinelli, for example, yeah, we need to get another player to compete with him, but we can't just sign anybody, because when you think about it, the role that he plays, he has to play really wide, stretch the pitch. He needs to have 1v1 ability. Of course, he needs to get in the box and score goals, but he also needs to have 1v1 ability. He needs to be able to drift inside, dribble, create situations for others, and also switch positions and be comfortable on the inside as well as being on the outside. So when you think about the players that we need to sign in, you have to think about this. They not only have to be good in transition or in the counter-attack or getting into the box, they also have to be good when teams are sitting deep and they have to switch positions, dribble, create situations, and switch positions. So that's what's key for when we start looking for players. And Fabio Vieira is another one as well that I look at. When I saw the movement that he made for the first goal, he just reminded me of David Silva, the way he used to make those kind of movements from that side of the pitch when he was playing for City and they played with De Bruyne and David Silva as their midfielders. And when you think about the way he attacked that space and you see what Xhaka does where he's attacking that space as well, he just looked so comfortable there. As soon as got the ball, as soon as the ball went in there, you could see his head up already. He was already looking at the pass already and played a little dink that went straight to Odegaard. So you see he's really comfortable there. And when I talk about obviously Xhaka's playing that role really well. When you think about the profile of player that we want, to be playing that kind of position. That's Fabio Vieira. Someone like that who's naturally an attacking midfielder, who's naturally creative, who makes off the ball runs into the box, who can receive in the final third, receive the ball, turn, dribble, can carry the ball, can overlap on the left hand side as well. So these are all skill sets that are really important for that kind of role. And you think about guys like Patino, who could come into the team as well, who can also fit that profile as well. So even if we don't go and sign a player, we've already got another young player again. We've got Fabio Vieira and we've got Patino, who look like they suit that same position. I think Smith Rowe is another one who in the future would fit that sort of role as well. So yeah, that's what I felt was important with Fabio Vieira. And obviously, even though he's not having a great season, he still showed in that game, or just in that move alone, he showed the potential of what he could offer from that position. But yeah, another thing I wanted to mention as well again was just to give Gabriel Saliba, these guys deserve a lot of credit, because although everything that Zinchenko does in the final third in terms of going into midfield, receiving it in the central areas, mixing up with the players, overlapping, all these sort of things that he does, there's going to be space behind him, there's going to be left there, there's going to be a lot of space there. If teams try to counter-attack, there's space there, and Wolves did counter-attack, especially Gonzalo Guedes. He counter-attacked a lot on that side, and every time they go on that side, who was there to clean up the mess over there and try to intercept the Gabriel, and Saliba also coming inside, and then you got Ben White, who's also balanced and being a right back and a third centre back at the same time. And these guys, they deserve a lot of credit, because they don't play. Because when you think about other teams who play, not many teams play with that sort of high line. So if you're in a team that plays very deep, it's a lot easier to defend because you're defending a small space. I think it was Johan Cruyff who says, if I have to defend a small space, I'm a good defender, but if I have to defend a big space, I'm a bad defender. Because that's what it is. If you have to defend so much space, it's very difficult. Not many defenders are capable or have the mobility and the concentration to keep on defending counter-attacks and transition situations like that. Obviously, us being able to play this high line helps with our pressing, high up the pitch, and how we want to play and dominate in the final third. But what you have to give credit for is these players, this Gabriel, this Saliba, because when they do make mistakes, you have to realize they're playing a high risk, high reward sort of game. So there's going to be chances of mistakes because they're having to defend in isolation, defend counter-attacks, defend acres of space. Mistakes are bound to happen. So when they do make mistakes, you have to understand the kind of system that they're playing in. So to give them credit and view them differently to how you view a defender who's playing in a very deep look, or in a more organized team that sit very deep and everyone is in shape and very compact in that sense. So you have to give them a bit more allowance than you would to another defender. And for me, Gabriel had a sick performance. The same with Saliba and Ben White as well. I'm coming in, and for Ben White as well. Another thing that I'll say about him as well, because I remember saying at the start of the season, I said we need to see more overlaps on that right hand side, the same way we've seen it on the left hand side, where Ben White needs to overlap. What we saw with Tomiyasu, that wasn't doing enough. But what we can see with Ben White now is that he's showing great balance now between being a third centre back, being and drifting into midfield as another centre mid, the same way as Zinchenko does, and overlapping as well. And the balance he's struck this balance off really well, and it's been recently where you've seen more overlaps and coming inside to play with the midfield, to help in the build-up play, to play 1-2 passes and things like that, and overlap at the same time. And then you also see him when we have to defend transitions, tuck inside, because obviously when Zinchenko's high up, Gabriel has to tuck in on that left hand side, Saliba has to come at the inside, and Ben White then covers the right hand side. So it's almost like a back three with Partey screening in front of them. But Ben White, for me, he's found that great balance between being a right back who's overlapping, drifting inside, and playing as a third centre back. For me, he's having a great season, and he's continued to step it up. He's improved, and I'm glad that he's been called up to the England squad as well, because he deserves it with the way he's been playing. Odegaard, before the game I said, that we need to see more decisiveness in the final third. We need to see him being more of a killer in the final third, just being decisive. And then I looked at his stats as well, and I realised, hold on, he's our top goal scorer in the league. So even though obviously his goals has been spaced out rather than just consistently happening, he's getting there, but we just need to see more of it, because he's capable of it. He's capable of doing these things. You see, he makes his nice late runs into the box. He's able to time it really well. But when he gets there, he needs to hit it first time, the same way he did against Wolves, and take his chances straight away, because he can do it. And when he gets on the edge of the box, we need to see more shots from him. We need to see more final end product, more directness, just him to be a bit more of a killer in the final third. And if we have that, then we're going to end up having multiple goal scorers, multiple players in the final third that can play a final ball. And that's what would help us as well. That's the only thing that's lacking from his game, because for me, Odegaard, he does everything. He helps with the build-up play, he helps defensively, he drops deep, He helps in the final third in terms of sustaining possession out there. He's a leader. He rotates with Saka on the right hand side. Obviously, I still want to see him do that a lot, but I do understand that because he's left-footed, it's a bit less comfortable for him to be doing it on that side as opposed to if he was on the left-hand side. Maybe he'll be overlapping a lot more on that side than he does on the right-hand side. But still, I do want to see him be more decisive, and it was good to see him be decisive in this kind of game as well and get the 2 goals because it was an important game for us to capitalise on what Man City had done, whereby they dropped 3 points. So it was important that we won this game to create the 5 points gap, and he stood up for that game. He got up, he was a captain, he got up and he made his mark and got the 2 goals. So I'm happy for that performance from him, and I hope he can be consistent with doing that. Another one again to mention is Gabriel Jesus. Oh my days, this guy, his influence for me is beyond goals and assists. This guy is unbelievable. Obviously I want to see him score more goals, but the things that he does on the pitch, man, is unbelievable. The first goal, look at what he did. The movement alone to get to the left-hand side, drift inside, cover the ball, dribble, drift inside and play the pass back to Fabio Vieira. He just does things that you don't see regularly from normal strikers. You don't see strikers often doing the kind of things he does off the ball and outside the box, and he's just unbelievable. His work rate, his defensive responsibility, he's pressing, he's dribbling, his strength as well in these situations. He backs off to defenders, holds them up, links play, wins the ball in the air. Just an unbelievable talent. So I'm so happy that we've got him anyways. But yeah, man, that was my reaction to the game against Wolves. And obviously we've not got football until I think it's late December. So see you guys then. See you guys.